"Bro, don't do this. Don't make me hurt you. Put the gun down. This isn't how you want it to end. Whatever happened today, we can fix it. Please, Adem, drop the weapon." Those were the desperate words officers shouted at a boy standing in his driveway, gripping a gun with shaky hands. But this wasn't a grown man facing police. This was a 14-year-old child caught in a deadly standoff. Minutes earlier, frantic 911 calls flooded in. A neighbor reported a man running for help, shot several times. Another caller described a young black teenager sprinting through the neighborhood with a firearm. By the time police arrived, the truth was already far darker than anyone imagined. This boy hadn't shot a stranger. He hadn't lashed out at an enemy. He had turned the gun on his own mother and her new boyfriend furious after discovering their relationship. Now, with officers surrounding him, body cameras recorded every 10 seconds. They begged him to drop the weapon, but each moment felt like it could end in tragedy. What unfolded left the entire community in shock and investigators struggling to understand how a family argument spiraled into a double homicide. Tiffany wasn't the kind of woman people forgot. Born in 1984, she was 39 when tragedy struck. She lived a busy life as a mother of 3, constantly juggling responsibilities, but she carried it all with warmth and resilience. Friends described her as a light in their lives. Her smile had a way of lifting even the darkest moods. Tiffany worked hard to provide for her children. She sacrificed, she pushed through struggles, and she made sure her kids always came first. She didn't live in luxury. She lived in dedication, love, and sacrifice. Everything she did for her children. But here's the tragic twist. The same children she devoted her life to, one of them would one day take her life. Despite her challenges, Tiffany's joy was contagious. She was preparing for a new chapter, one she was over the moon about. Her oldest daughter was expecting a baby, and Tiffany couldn't wait to become a grandmother. She talked about it constantly, imagining the moment she'd hold her grandchild for the first time, thinking about the traditions she would pass on, and looking forward to watching her daughter step into motherhood. But as she looked ahead with excitement, another part of her life was becoming far more complicated. At the center of that storm was her youngest child, 14-year-old Adem Barry. Adem was in the 8th grade. People who knew him described him as quiet, not the type of kid to cause trouble. No fights at school, no run-ins with the law, no red flags that pointed to violence. To most, he was simply another teenager, withdrawn at times, still figuring out life. But Adem wasn't the only person shaping Tiffany's story. Tiffany was in a relationship with 31-year-old Cortavius Cruz, who lived with her in Riverview. Not much has been revealed about their relationship, but one thing is certain. Cortavius was in the house the night everything unraveled. He was there when the argument started. And he was there when a 14-year-old boy made a decision that shattered lives. It was Sunday, September 10th, 2023. A quiet evening in a suburban neighborhood. Families were winding down, preparing for the week ahead. But inside Tiffany's home, peace was slipping away. At some point that night, Tiffany and Cortavius got into an argument. What sparked it is still unclear. Police never released the exact details. But what they did confirm is that things escalated quickly. Voices rose, tempers flared, and the atmosphere shifted from calm to tense. And they weren't alone. Adem heard everything. The shouting, the anger, the fight growing louder. And in that moment, something inside him broke. He got up, walked to where his mother kept her purse, and pulled out the handgun she carried. That one decision set the stage for an irreversible tragedy. With the weapon in hand, Adem walked back into the room where Tiffany and Cortavius were seated. In seconds, the argument turned into something no one could stop. He opened fire. Gunshots echoed through the house. Tiffany screamed, begging her son to put the gun down. She tried to shield Cortavius, maybe believing Adem would never hurt her. But she was wrong. Bullets struck Tiffany. She collapsed to the floor, fatally wounded. Her dreams of becoming a grandmother, her endless sacrifices for her children, her role as the family's light, gone in an instant. And then, Adem turned the gun on Cortavius Cruz. Cortavius was hit multiple times in the torso, his hands, even his face. Somehow, despite the pain and blood loss, he stumbled out of the house, desperate to survive. He collapsed outside, calling out for help. Neighbors saw him staggering through the subdivision, his clothes drenched in blood. Terrified, they dialed 911. One call reported a man badly injured, begging for help. But then another call came in, this time about a boy with a gun roaming the neighborhood. When deputies with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's office arrived, the scene waiting for them was unlike anything they had ever faced. In the driveway stood 14-year-old Adem, the same gun in his hands that had just taken his mother's life. This wasn't just an armed suspect. This was a child. Deputies immediately shifted into de-escalation mode. They pleaded with him, voices calm but firm, urging him to drop the weapon. Neighbors peered through blinds, holding their breath as the standoff began. "Keep your hands up. Don't go back toward the gun. Walk toward me. I'll guide you through this. Please, don't pick it back up." Their body cameras later showed how tense those moments were. Adem paced the driveway, sometimes pointing the gun at officers, other times pressing it against his own head. Every second felt like it could end in tragedy. "Bro, I don't want to hurt you. Put it down. You don't want to end it this way. I promise whatever happened today can be fixed. Don't pull the trigger." But the boy didn't listen. He kept pacing, gun in hand, as the deputies tried to pull him back from the edge. For 16 long minutes, deputies tried to reach Adem. One officer spoke with a calm, steady voice, almost like a parent. But the boy wouldn't surrender. He shifted between defiance and despair, torn apart by the weight of what he had done. He had killed his own mother, yet he refused to let go of the gun. Deputies knew rushing him could end in disaster, so they held their ground, trying every possible way to talk him down. Then, just as it seemed he was lowering the weapon, Adem suddenly bent to grab it again. In that split second, deputies realized words alone might not be enough. A decision was made. One officer fired a 40mm launcher, striking Adem in the hand and torso. The impact forced him to drop the gun. It wasn't about punishment, it was about stopping him from hurting himself or anyone else. With the weapon out of reach, deputies called to him again. This time, Adem walked forward and surrendered. The standoff was finally over. Meanwhile, as negotiations unfolded in the driveway, another urgent mission was happening. Officers risked their lives to rescue Cortavius Cruz, who had collapsed nearby, bleeding from multiple wounds. Even though Adem still posed a threat, deputies managed to drag Cruz to safety. He was rushed to the hospital. Doctors confirmed he had been shot 5 times, but he survived. Inside the home, deputies found Tiffany Harris. She was gone. Despite all efforts, nothing could be done to save her. The community was left shaken. How could a quiet 8th grader with no history of violence commit something so unthinkable? Sheriff Chad Chronister later praised his deputies, calling their actions a textbook case of de-escalation. He revealed that during those 16 tense minutes, Adem put the gun to his own head at least 6 times, threatening to end his life. Yet the deputies held firm, refusing to give up on him. Deputies stayed calm. They didn't shout. They didn't fire, even though they had every legal reason to. Instead, they spoke to Adem with steady voices, building a fragile connection with a boy who put a gun to his own head at least 6 times. Their patience and restraint spared lives that night and spared a child from being killed by law enforcement. But once the standoff ended, the legal process began. 14-year-old Adem Barry was arrested and taken to juvenile detention. Prosecutors moved quickly, charging him with second-degree murder for the death of his mother, Tiffany Harris, and attempted first-degree murder for shooting Cortavius Cruz. The decision raised questions. Why not first-degree murder, which implies premeditation? Legal experts explained that because the shooting happened during the heat of an argument, prosecutors didn't see the level of planning required for first-degree. Still, the charges carry life-altering consequences, especially if Adem is tried as an adult. Florida law allows minors accused of violent crimes to face adult penalties, meaning this 14-year-old could spend the rest of his life in prison. For Tiffany's family, the pain was unbearable. Just days earlier, Tiffany had been glowing with excitement about becoming a grandmother. Her oldest daughter was pregnant, and Tiffany had already been talking about baby clothes and family traditions. Now that same daughter had to grieve her mother's death while preparing to welcome new life. Tiffany's other children were left with an unimaginable loss. Their mother gone, and their brother behind bars, accused of murder. The community gathered for vigils, remembering Tiffany as a devoted mother, a woman whose warmth could brighten any room. But the grief came with confusion. How could a quiet 8th grader end up pulling the trigger on his own mother? Sheriff Chad Cronister used the tragedy to make a public plea. He urged anyone who feels trapped in an abusive or dangerous situation to reach out for help before it escalates. Sheriff Cronister's words weren't just for Tiffany's family. They were for every household touched by violence. He urged anyone in danger to reach out for help, reminding the community that resources like the Spring of Tampa Bay exist to protect families before tragedy strikes. But for Riverview, the images of deputies pleading with a child, begging him not to pull the trigger, will never fade. This tragedy left far more questions than answers. Why did Adem snap? How could an argument spiral into something so unthinkable? Now, the focus has shifted to the courts. Should a 14-year-old be treated as a child who acted in a moment of rage, or as an adult who pulled the trigger multiple times, killing his mother and nearly killing her boyfriend? If tried as a juvenile, Adem could walk free at 21. If tried as an adult, he could spend decades or even his entire life in prison. The community is divided. Some demand accountability, arguing public safety must come first. Others point to his age, his clean record, and the science that shows a teenager's brain isn't fully developed until the mid-20s. Was this an act of cold intent, or a catastrophic mistake by a troubled boy? It's a question that weighs heavily on prosecutors, on Tiffany's grieving family, and on a community left broken. So I'll leave it with you. Should Adem be tried as an adult, or given the chance for redemption in the juvenile system? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this story impactful, make sure you like this video, share it, and subscribe for more cases like this one.